Imagine if a single book could grant you the power to grasp the entire 138 billion year history of the universe, from the explosive birth of time to the complex, precarious modern societies we live in today. David Christian's Big History is not just an ordinary account of human past. It is a monumental, awe-inspiring epic that stretches from the dawn of the cosmos to our uncertain future. While traditional history confines itself to the tiny fraction of time since the invention of writing, this groundbreaking work shatters disciplinary boundaries. It masterfully synthesizes cosmology, geology, evolutionary biology, and anthropology into one sweeping, coherent narrative of existence. It is no wonder that visionaries like Bill Gates have championed it as an essential framework for understanding humanity's greatest challenges. Christian structures this vast expanse of time around 8 monumental turning points, which he calls thresholds. The journey begins with the first threshold, the Big Bang. In a split second, from absolute nothingness, time, space, and energy are violently forged. As we cross the second and third thresholds, the cooling universe gives birth to the first stars and galaxies, acting as massive crucibles that forge the essential chemical elements necessary for life. By the fourth threshold, the narrative focuses on our own cosmic neighborhood, the formation of the solar system and Earth. Out of a swirling disk of rock and dust, a volatile early planet emerges, setting the stage for the miraculous fifth threshold, the emergence of life. From single-celled organisms navigating primitive oceans to the explosive diversity of complex creatures, life relentlessly evolves over billions of years, ultimately culminating in the sixth threshold. The arrival of Homo sapiens. Unlike any other species, humans possess the unique superpower of collective learning. Our ability to accumulate, share, and preserve knowledge across generations elevated us to planetary dominance. The seventh threshold marks the invention of agriculture, which triggered a radical transformation in human society. Leaving behind nomadic foraging, humans settled, produced surplus food, built sprawling cities, and wove intricate webs of global trade and cultural exchange. The final eighth threshold is the modern revolution. Fueled by the dense energy of fossil fuels, humanity triggered an explosive surge in population and technological innovation, ushering in the Anthropocene, a new geological epoch shaped entirely by human activity. Yet, this unprecedented progress carries a heavy toll. Christian starkly warns of the existential threats we now face: severe climate change, resource depletion, and ecological collapse. Big History ultimately serves as both a magnificent origin story and a crucial warning, reminding us that we are the active custodians of a deeply interconnected universe. Now, let us delve deeper into the profound questions this cosmic epic poses and explore the hidden implications for the future of humanity.
So what if I told you that everything you learned in history class was really just the last few seconds of a much bigger story? Well, today, we're going to zoom all the way out and tell the history of literally everything, from the very beginning of the universe right up to this moment. Let's dive in. Everything starts with this number, 13.8 billion years. That's our best scientific guess for how old the universe is. And look, it's a number so outrageously big, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around, right? But really grasping that sense of scale is the key to unlocking this entire story. Okay, so how do we even try to get our minds around a number that big? Let's try an analogy. Imagine that the entire 13.8 billion year history of the universe is squeezed into a single calendar year. The Big Bang happens at the stroke of midnight on January 1st. So on that scale, where's all of recorded human history? You know, the pyramids, the Roman Empire, the internet, all of it? It's just this tiny, thin sliver. It all happens in the final few seconds before midnight on December 31st. Now, that mind-bending perspective is exactly what drove a historian named David Christian to ask a pretty radical question. He looked at all of our knowledge about the past and saw this giant, disconnected puzzle. So his mission became putting all those pieces together, from physics to biology to human history, to create one single cohesive story. And here's the problem he saw. Traditional history was laser-focused on that thin sliver of time, right? The last 5,000 years or so, basically the part with written records. Meanwhile, you had cosmology, geology, and biology covering the billions of years that came before. They were two totally separate worlds, the humanities and the sciences, and they almost never talked to each other. It left us with this completely fragmented picture of our own past. Christian's solution was to create an entirely new field, big history. The whole goal is to intentionally smash down the walls between different subjects. It pulls evidence from, cosmology, geology, biology, and human history to build one single, science-based story from the Big Bang all the way to today. In a way, you can think of big history as a kind of modern creation myth. And I don't mean myth as in something that's not true. I mean, it's a grand, unifying origin story for all of us, one that's grounded in the best modern science and global evidence we've got. And this is not some fringe idea. It's grown into this massive global educational project, reaching millions of students, and it's backed by major figures like Bill Gates.
And the stakes for understanding this big, unified story? Well, they couldn't be higher. When someone asked David Christian why it's so important to build these grand narratives, he put it pretty bluntly. For him, this isn't just some interesting academic exercise. He sees it as a matter of survival.
So, if this story is that critical, how do you even begin to tell it? I mean, how do you possibly structure a narrative that spans 13.8 billion years? Well, Christian and his colleagues came up with this amazing framework built around 8 major turning points, which they call thresholds.
So what exactly is a threshold? Think of it as a moment of transformation. It's when the universe has just the right ingredients and what they call the Goldilocks conditions, not too hot, not too cold, just right for something totally new and more complex to pop into existence.
And this framework, it charts the incredible growth of complexity over time. It starts super simple with threshold 1, the Big Bang itself. Then it takes billions of years of evolution to reach threshold 6, the appearance of our species, Homo sapiens. And what made us different? Well, it was this superpower called collective learning. Our unique ability to share complex ideas, to learn from each other, and to pass that knowledge down through generations, allowing it to build up. This is the ability that eventually led to threshold 8, the modern revolution, where the pace of change suddenly went into hyperdrive, leading us right to where we are today.
Okay, so this is a fascinating story of the deep past, for sure. But you might be sitting there wondering, what on earth does any of this have to do with my life right now? And this is where big history pivots from being about the past to being a really essential tool for the present.
Let's just ask that question directly. Why should we care about the Big Bang or how stars are formed when we have immediate, urgent problems to deal with in the 21st century?
The answer really starts with understanding this term, the Anthropocene. It's the idea that we've actually entered a whole new geological era, one defined by us. For the first time in Earth's 4.5 billion year history, a single species, that's us, Homo sapiens, is now the main driver of change for the entire planet. That is a wild dot.
And this is exactly where big history becomes a kind of map for our present moment. All of these huge interconnected challenges we're facing, from climate change to AI, they didn't just pop up out of nowhere. They're the direct result of that long story of accelerating complexity, a story driven by our own collective learning. To have any hope of solving them, we first have to understand the deep historical forces that created them. So that brings us to the final, and maybe the most important idea of all. Big history isn't just a map of the past, it's a tool for helping us navigate the future.
David Christian now focuses on what he calls future stories. And the argument is actually simple, but it's really profound. The best way to think seriously about what comes next is to identify and understand the most powerful trends that got us here in the first place. The past doesn't lock in the future, but it sure does shape the landscape of what's possible.
And this really gets to the practical heart of the whole project. Bill Gates didn't just see big history as an interesting classroom lesson. He saw it as a countermeasure, a vital tool for figuring out how to navigate the huge challenges we've created for ourselves in this new age of the Anthropocene.
So, to be perfectly clear, this isn't about having a crystal ball that predicts one certain future. It's nothing like that. It's about scientifically mapping out the range of possible futures so that we, collectively, can make better, wiser decisions. It empowers us to understand our role as stewards of a planet that is at a really critical turning point.
And this leaves us with one final powerful takeaway. It's easy to look at all the problems today and feel like we're at the end of the story. But big history shows us the exact opposite. The universe is still young. We aren't at an end. We are living in the spring of the universe, a creative, energetic, and formative time. And what we choose to do next, as the first species to ever understand this incredible story, will shape everything that follows.